It's starting.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, you're on first.
I'm on first. So, welcome. My name is Shervin Parvini. I'm a graduate from 1993 of Maxwell International Baha'i School. I have with me, of course, Dr. Johnson and LaNelma Johnson. We are in Oro Valley. Today is the 3rd of November?
Yes.
3rd of November 2018. And we're going to be doing a little interview. Before we do the interview, the reason that we're doing this is for some historic context. A group of former students have banded together and created something called the Maxwell Project. I'm going to read for you our mission, or our project charter. The Maxwell Project seeks to document, archive, and share a multifaceted look at the Maxwell experience from 1988 to 2008. We hope to create resources and events that will foster growth and understanding in a Baha'i-inspired education. Our project overview is that we're going to create a series of electronic and written multimedia resources for a variety of purposes, such as documenting the Maxwell experience and the history of the school, provide a hub of memorabilia for those who were part of Maxwell, and offer some guidance for those who are anticipating the creation of new future Baha'i programs. This is really a program, this is really a documentary for those future generations who want those resources. That being said, I will introduce the Johnsons. So my own personal experience is when I grew up in Los Angeles, in a wonderful Baha'i community. I was, in 1990, I went to Maxwell International Baha'i School. It changed and revolutionized the way that everything I did from that moment forward proceeded. It created for me a series of standards. It created for me guidance and some of the key foundational people that helped to create this beautiful new way of looking at the world were, of course, Dr. Johnson and LaNelma Johnson. And so we want to ask a series of questions. The overriding questions that we'll be asking is how Maxwell was created, what did we do throughout those years, and then challenges, perhaps, that, during the final years of Maxwell. Is there anything you'd like to say even before we get started?
Well, I'd like to emphasize what you said about a group of people. That many of the things we'll talk about existed because this group of people, the teams that were put together, really were acting as a team. That there is a consultation, sort of the vehicle that was always there to look at issues and problems and challenges, to tap into the resources that we created or that was created. And none of these things could be any individuals. An individual could bring an idea, an issue to a team, a group that could be formed to, attack that, so to speak, and say, okay, here's an issue, here's a problem, here's a challenge. Let's clarify so everybody understands what the issues are. I mean, just going right through the process of consultation. And that was our security. That was our vehicle, whereby things were created, things changed. It was very fluid, and gradually it found a place, and it became part of what you described as the Maxwell experience. So you really hit the nail on the head with the group. And so we will sometimes use names, and there always will be some that behind the scenes that no one knows about, but that they are busily making sure that the hinges on the doors work. Right. That this issue needs to be cleaned up somehow, and so
beautiful.
Always falling back. Did you want to add to that?
No, just our constant love for children and youth and being in education. We just found when we were invited to participate in the establishment of Maxwell, that it was a blessing and a God-given opportunity to be of service, and the students are the result of that. So when we look around the world and see, the students and what they're doing, it's validation that some things were done right.
Certainly. In fact, perhaps we could start with, I was able to find some of the original Maxwell International Baha'i School handbook, the handbook itself. And so I'll read briefly, if it's okay, the statement purpose and vision principle. Okay, so, and this document will be also along with this entire parts of the document with the Maxwell project. I guess I'll read, okay. The statement purpose. Maxwell International Baha'i School provides an international multicultural program for youth who are committed to achieving excellence in scholarship, in moral and ethical behavior, and in the development of noble spiritual ideals. Maxwell's purpose is to prepare individuals for a lifetime of service to humanity, people who will contribute significantly to the unity and advancement of the societies of the coming century. Do you want to chat do you want to say anything about those?
Well, I think before we go into this, as far as the vision, because then it kind of starts to drive descriptions of how the school operated, I'd like to back up and maybe, if it's okay with you and you, talk about how Maxwell came to be, how it was created as far as an existing facility, because it's part of the history of why it's in Shinegun Lake and how it got there, so to speak. Is that right?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
For us, LaNelma and myself, it kind of started with meeting certain individuals that became critical in the process of actually finding the idea, defining the idea of a Baha'i school and its application of Baha'i principles to an environment that has existed in the past and existed between these years that you talked about, and now doesn't exist. The facility itself, but the results of that experience still exist today through, as Mrs. Johnson defined, through the school itself, the students. But basically for LaNelma and I, it starts in India. And it starts in India because we met, a visitor came to see the New Era School, which is in Panchgani, India, where we were residing with our family at that time, living and working there. And his name was Glenn Aford. And Glenn Aford was a Canadian, and he was teaching at a university at that summer course in India. And he came to visit the New Era School. And in that process, getting to know him as a development expert, rural development, later in life, a few years, I get a call from Glenn Aford. And Glenn Aford said, the NSA has purchased some property and we're looking for how best to use that property, and we're thinking about education. The NSA of India, that's why you got to correct me. Okay.
The NSA of Canada. And Glenn was a member of that NSA.
That's right. and so anyway, he called and wanted to know if we could come and meet him in Kansas City, Kansas, and talk about the possibilities of having a Baha'i school in Canada. So I said, "Can I bring some people with me?" And he said, "Sure." And so I called up Barbara and Rick Johnson, who were colleagues of ours and friends of ours, and asked if they would like to come along. They said yes. And so we got together and drove I drove from western Kansas to eastern Kansas and met with Glenn Aford in a motel, and for a few hours, just explored what it would take to have a Baha'i school, a residential school, that in a Western environment. At that time, there were no Baha'i educational programs like that, and so Glenn says, "Well, we're going to gather some people together."
What year was this?
This would have been
1980, at the beginning of 80.
probably
87.
about
the beginning of-
1987.
So that's the beginning of '87 was the inception,
Yeah,
and then the launch of the school was actually September of 1988.
Right.
yeah.
Wow, a year and a half later.
So you could say
Approximately, I'm not sure about.
it took
the
a year and a
exact
half
dates
to
in
2
the school.
years from the conception of the idea, which moved from a motel in Kansas City
Right.
to Batterwood, which was a huge mansion outside of Toronto, and gathered Baha'i educators from all over North America, and we just started talking, breaking off into small groups, and there were probably about 30 individuals there, and talked about the possibilities of what it would take to start a school and what it might look like. So that was the first recognition of the idea and turning it into a development project, which at that time, that's really what it was. The word Maxwell had not come into existence yet. It was just an educational project, and it was based in Shawnigan Lake, BC, Canada, and it was there because an individual by the name of Jim Kelly used to go from Shawnigan Lake to his business in Victoria and then Daly, and he would be driving by a school that had been closed for about 10 years. Okay, the Shawnigan Lake Girls School, which was called Strathcona. And he was always thinking that'd make a wonderful Baha'i school. It'd be a wonderful Baha'i school. He wrote letter to the NSA of Canada, and then he wrote another one and another one. Finally, the NSA said, we need to send someone out there to look at this and at least report back to the NSA that can then report to Jim Kelly. And the individual that came to look at the facility that was a residential school was David Haddon, another member that was the treasurer of the NSA of Canada at that time. And you can fill in times and dates and so on later on and correct some mistakes that I may have said.
Okay.
but I have my wife here to help with that
Yes.
process. And so he came, he saw, and he thought a lot about it, saw the potential of it, and was a real friend of education. And so he ended up going and making his report to the NSA. And in that report, after he'd finished, he said, if the NSA is interested in this project of establishing a school, this facility has the potential to house such a project. And if you don't want it, I think I will buy it. Then he said they decided first that they don't want the project. Then when graciously and wonderfully David decided that he would buy it because he felt that the finance was one of the things that was the decision not to buy it, because the NSA needs this money for other priorities. He decided to move the priority out and say, it's now mine. Are you interested in buying it? I mean, that I have bought it now, and
Right.
I will gift it to the NSA, so that the NSA and the Baha'i community of Canada own this property, which I would like to see turned into a Baha'i educational project. And so they consulted again, and the decision was that it said, we don't have the financial burden for it, then we'll go ahead. And so then, of course, that was before the meeting in Strathcona, because now he has something to go forward with that facility. And then I will mention two or three people that were then critical for starting that work on that project. And one of them was Harry Terpster. Harry was an educator that was a friend of David Haddon, and David asked him if he would give 1 year of service to coordinate the remodeling and everything from a construction point of view, and be there at the property so that I can be in direct communication as issues and finances and so on become part of the work that we project has to take place.
And was there much construction that needed to be done, or was it pretty established already?
It was established as a facility that was semi-operational. There were major renovations in regards of the biggest one was the septic system. If you're because there's a limit of what the school can physically hold in the residential part, naturally, with the septic. So that has to be not only done up, just created, because whatever they had was not working and needs to be completely redone. And so Harry was in charge of that project as the director of the project for the first year. And during that time, then decisions had to be made, and based on those decisions, then other people would come on to help with the project. The project began to take shape after Strathcona. Strathcona sort of gave the direction as an educational project, And then all sorts of decisions from is it going to be a school? And if it's a school, what grade levels? Where are you going to start? And all sorts of government things that come into play with the facility and codes that have to be met. And
Fire codes.
yeah, fire codes and all safety things have to be looked at. And then staffing. Um, Harry is doing very well with the construction and the type of people that are being hired, electricians and plumbers and carpenters particularly. Even a whole shop was established on the campus, and there were 2 or 3 craftsmen
Bill Worthy.
and so on, and
Making beds.
some of them were full time, and some of them were sort of in and out, helping out when they could. A lot of volunteer work was there. We were very lucky that there were a lot of dedicated individuals, craftsmen and tradesmen, that would come and give a month, 6 weeks, 3 months. And they were, like Bill Worthy was able to be an independent carpenter, a tradesman, and so he was pretty much full time for the first year or so of the school. When it became a vision that now started to take shape, that what does the school look like from a facilities point of view? Yes.
Excuse me.
Yes.
You might want to mention how we got there.
Okay.
Because
Shortly, we'll try to keep it short.
yeah, it'll make it short.
Okay, but help me make it short. We participated in the Strathcona, what do you call it, gathering. And out of that gathering, there were potential people. Batterwood? Batterwood. Thank you for correcting me.
And this is a group that was getting together to talk about not the structure of the school, but rather the educational and academic side.
Right. That group was evolving, and it was focused on, as you just said, the curriculum and the operation of the school, and that the thing was that the director of the project, from a construction point of view, was Harry's responsibility. Then they kind of came together at at Batterwood. David Haddon asked if I would come, we would come, and serve at the school and start to develop, all the types of things that you have to be recognized by the government. And I said, just a side note, I said, no. Okay. We were already committed to return to India. The Universal House of Justice, who were deeply involved in the upgrading and working with the school, the New Era School, as it had a lot of encouragement from the Guardian in its development and expansion, which then passed on to the Universal House of Justice. And we had been serving there for 12 years and previously, and now other institutions had sprung up during our time. So there were 3 or 4 other institutions with the New Era complex. New Era bought the land,
Mm.
and the programs kind of was already involved, even to establishing the Institute of Rural Development, um, which was very successful in a variety of ways, and then the Baha'i Academy and all sorts of things that were going on.
So, Dr. Johnson, at that time you were the principal of the
Yes,
new era.
right.
This is in 86, 87?
We went there in 71,
I see.
1971,
Right.
and we left in
83.
In 83.
1983. Okay. Now, with that in mind, the House of Justice asked if we could return to India
In 86, they
in
asked us.
86, okay, and they wanted to take all these institutions and put them under one administrative umbrella, so that there were more directive and communication and sharing, and the financial is a big one.
Yes.
The school had an income, but the other institutions didn't have incomes, and so we had to support these other institutions, and when we can make it as one with many programs, it makes sense, and legally you can do it, accept donations and all sorts of things. So we were happy to do that. Our kids were all in college, they were doing fine. Our parents had passed away during the time that we had returned, and so we saw that we could do that, and so we were in the process of that. We had applied for a visa that would allow us to stay in India, and in that process, it seemed to be taking a long time, months after months, trying to get the visa, and so I explained in a short way, brief way, that we're not available at this time, and then David Haddon, the pure heart that he has, he said, well, maybe this project's as important as that one is, and maybe we should ask the House of Justice that now that this project is up and looks like is running and so on,
Right.
is a Baha'i school also, and let's see if they would consider that. And so he says, let's call them.
Sure.
Sure. And so I can't remember whether it was Ali Nachavani or David Rue, but he called one of the House members and asked if they would bring that up with members of the House, and then if how to say this, the difficulty that we're having with the visa, they responded back that give the one more huge push for the visa.
Yes.
The counselor, Zina Sarabji from India and the NSA, would go and meet with the Ministry of Education or whatever, and on this side with the embassy and so on, see if you can get that visa processed. So we gave a month. Everybody met with everybody, everything.
This whole thing was almost a year.
Okay.
We'd been waiting.
For the visa.
But in the meantime, everything's still going and developing, with the project.
With Maxwell.
Yes.
Not Maxwell yet.
No, wasn't Maxwell
Okay,
yet, but
so
with that project.
Right.
Yes.
In Canada.
So that was picking up and going. So I was a member of that committee that
Yes.
met, monthly or whenever they could at Shawnigan Lake. And so we had set a date, and the date came, and I called the ambassador in D.C. and said, "What's up?" And he said, "Well, I'm embarrassed to tell you that we can't find your passport.
Wow.
So
So during the big push, trying to get the passport and the visa and everything
The-
organized, it disappeared.
It disappears.
Okay.
So they didn't want to say no.
Right.
So, and you know, I love India. I love and love so much. However, it's a strategy that is sometimes used in their political system, or as whatever. And the easiest way to solve the problem is throw it away, hide it,
Yes.
burn it, do something. I don't know where it is anymore.
Right.
So we don't know what happened, but so then I wrote to the NSA and said that I'm now available if you're still interested in us. We would be honored to come and help out with this project.
And they had requested that you be the principal, I assume.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is just another side note is
Sure.
that I thought I would see if you go to Brentwood, Shawnigan Lake, if you go to any of these top schools, the headmaster is the headmaster. The principal is secondary
I see.
in the administrative structure of schools in Canada and most around the world.
I see.
Okay?
In private schools.
I'm saying that because that was my first test. Is that as we developed and the word spread that the NSA is building a high school
Yes.
in Canada, in Shawnigan Lake. And so the interest was there. And so the NSA had the unit convention at this school, this project, okay? So they could see it. And so the unit convention took place and everything. And then general consultation. Well, one of the little items that came up in the general consultation was naming it.
Naming the school.
Naming the school. Now we have
Right.
this project. Everybody knows it's going to be a school,
Sure.
but we got to have a name. We're not going to call it the project.
Right. You can only call it that for so long.
Okay, and so you can butt in anytime you want to. Okay,
Not sure about this.
you're not sure about this?
Yeah, you mean the national convention was held there, or you're calling it a unit convention? I don't know exactly.
Oh well, okay. We'll say that
I don't know.
the NSA had an NSA meeting, and there was a large crowd of people that came along with them.
I don't know what meeting that was. I can't remember. But
Yeah, but
yeah.
it was not open. It wasn't
No.
built. It was
the
there.
school was not open.
Okay, so it may have. I don't know who the people were. I assumed it was a unit convention because of the way that things were going on. Because I was there for other purposes. Okay, but of course they wanted to meet the head.
Right. Headmaster, principal, whatever the name is.
Yeah, but then a thing came up from the floor and said, "I don't think we should call the principal a headmaster. It's sexist." Well, maybe it is. I don't know. Except everybody else is headmaster. And I'd already started, they would call in and the phone would be passed to me. All right. And they said, "I don't want the principal, I want the headmaster."
I see.
So I realized that there's an issue here, you see. And so I can't even remember if I was asked my opinion or not, but
I think so.
you know, it basically came out that it's going to be principal, it's the head of the school. And I said, okay, I mean, if that's what you wish, I'm not going to argue for that, It's just that it's going to give me a little problem from time to time because
Right.
people want to talk to the
Government.
headmaster,
Government
not the
officials
principal.
also.
The government, and this is the terminology, this
The
nomenclature
terminology.
that they use,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and it was sort of the first step into um, the how things may be different, both because I have an external governing board, okay, which is the NSA,
Yes.
who appoints a school committee, who then I operate with
Right.
as such. Um, and so I have the NSA and I have the school board that I answer to.
And the school board it was a provincial something, is that right? Is a government of Canada or British Columbia school board?
It's a Baha'i appointed by the NSA.
I see. Okay, so it's a committee of sorts
Yeah.
Right,
under the auspices of the National Spiritual Assembly.
right,
Okay.
yeah. And because the NSA owns the property, and there are things that they want and or should be involved in decision making. Yeah, and that I should, as the operational kingpin, so to speak, day-to-day decisions for the running of the school are my responsibility, of which I report to the school board once a month or every other month or whatever, however it's established. I was always NSA, school board, government, and sometimes they were not knowledgeable, which was my responsibility to educate them of any policies or laws or things that we have to be cognizant about.
So on some level, you had to be a hub between, for example, the National Spiritual Assembly, the school board, as well as the local government or academic systems.
Right.
So you had to educate them, coordinate them, and make sure that they all know whatever decisions
Right.
had to be made.
And that was a critical piece of my responsibilities.
Yes.
And I was aware in principle, I was aware that this had to take place.
Right.
I was not knowledgeable because Canadian law, British Columbia law itself can by province be different. The British Columbia gives so much money per student,
Yes.
of which we didn't qualify because we didn't have the number of Canadians going to school. In other words, if we had 100 students from Canada going,
Yes.
then when we had 150 non-Canadians, we don't qualify for
The ratio
anything.
had to be
so
very
there had to
specific.
be ratios given and say. So we said we can't do it, so let's just forget about it. And so we were operating with a financial burden already because we were supporting a lot of students financially, partial or almost full financial assistance. We had, and if you want to go into that side of things, because the resources, of course, depended differently in relationship of residential students and non-residential students. And do you charge more like in the States? Most colleges have an out-of-state fee,
Right.
Tuition, and an in-state. And right now there's a big thing about migrants being in-state, And now then they're saying, no, we're going to make them all foreigners, and they're going to pay more to be here, even though they've been living here for 10 years.
Right.
And so I had to be on top of all of these things, from.
Plus, there was a visa issue
Oh,
for
yes.
the Johnsons.
So
Tell us about the visa issue. What was the visa issue?
Well, the visa issue was you don't get paid. And if you're working there as a volunteer, there's also a lot of government work to be done. Permission from the government for somebody to come in and work if there's a Canadian that qualifies, you see. So Ray was able to establish a very good relationship with that department in the government, so that you see all those volunteers that used to come in from outside of Canada,
Yes.
they were all on a special visa. So for us, coming in from the United States and working, Ray was able to get the visa that he needed to work and be paid from he used to go up there once a month in 1987. From his university. He'd go up once a month for 4 days and come back as he was doing, recruiting and things like that for teachers and staff and so on. But for me, because I was asked to be the director of residence
Yes.
and admissions, it went together for 5 years. I worked that job. And for the first 2 years, I worked as a volunteer because I couldn't get paid. But after that, I got the visa, and after that, I was able to be paid.
We are Canadian citizens.
Well, we didn't become Canadian
yeah.
citizens until 5 years. We had to be there 5 years.
I see.
But we did become Canadian citizens, thinking we might stay there. But so the visa situation for people coming in, like even our students coming in, had to be coming in on a student visa.
Yes.
So I'll talk about my department later, because it was we had different departments: the
Right.
controller, the nurse, the academic, and then the residence and admissions.
And there's several pillars.
Yeah. From here on, we can call it the Maxwell School.
When was it called the Maxwell School?
Okay, that's what I don't know the exact date, but when that gathering of, I'm going to say the unit convention, we're going to call it the unit convention, was when the NSA announced that Rahia Khanum, the beloved hand of the cause, gave permission to use a Maxwell name. From that point on, it was now on the stationery and everywhere called the Maxwell, and I don't know
Maxwell Baha'i School.
Just Maxwell Baha'i School. I don't know whether international, because they were playing around for a year or two with the Maxwell International Baha'i School.
It talks about Maxwell International Baha'i School. We have a copy of the letter that was sent to Ahmadul Baha Ruhia Khanum, and then her reply as well.
Oh, wonderful.
that is fantastic.
Oh,
It's
wonderful.
your
Good
own
for
letter.
you.
We
Okay, good for
Wonderful.
you.
I don't even know the date of that.
Okay.
It's,
Anyway,
it's
they
very-
got
Then there's another whole story, because and we'll talk about this when
Sure.
we come to uniforms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's a Maxwell tartan.
Tartan.
Tartan is the material that's used for for Scott.
The design.
Scottish.
Oh, I see.
So the
Okay.
Maxwell family, coming from those descendants, they have a Maxwell tartan.
Okay.
That is their pattern, and there's a tartan shop in Victoria.
Wow.
So we had
Okay.
to make a trip to the tartan shop, because Khanum really would have loved to have the students wearing the Maxwell tartan.
Okay.
We
So you guys don't know about that.
No. This
Well,
is
they
news.
should. Some of them do, because we brought the skirt and the blouse and everything to the school and had some of the students try them on.
Okay.
Okay,
That was in '88.
and the
Okay.
students basically hated it.
Okay.
I mean, just be bluntly about it. You know, it to them, whatever. But it was a skirt that folded over and so on. And anyway,
So
it was
then we
good.
decided on a different uniform
And
Okay.
you know,
before school
it
started.
was
I see.
too British or whatever. Anyway,
Who actually had the idea to call the school Maxwell?
David Haddon.
Okay, so
And
David
of course
hadn't
discussed
proposed
it,
it.
I'm sure, with the NSA. But I remember a meeting and where he was talking about that he hoped that this would be called the Maxwell School after the Maxwell family,
Mm-hmm.
and because the Maxwell, both of Mary and May and what's Maxwell Southern Maxwell. Southern Maxwell was a renowned architect, and many of the buildings, the Parliament buildings and cathedrals, were all built by him, designed by him.
Yeah, Sutherland Maxwell was the chief architect of all those.
That's right, and his there's a special room set aside at Victoria University for him. And all of his drawings, architectural renderings, and things are there. And Bahia Khanum really appreciates that, and she presented it with the governor when on one of her visits. And anyway, so
Beautiful.
we could
Beautiful.
have a section a little bit about the Maxwell
The Maxwell
family
family,
and the
why that
school,
was.
and as you know, she came and did the dedication.
That's right.
And the monkey tree is very large now.
Yes, the one that was planted by,
Monkey tree.
I think by her, or dedicated by her, but was Ken Blanchett was the one.
Ken,
Yeah.
and well, it was during the dedication
Right.
when the hole was dug and the tree
Right.
was purchased, and she was gonna. Ray thought that she would just put one shovel on the tree, and then it would be finished off by other people. She said, "No, I'm doing this."
That's fantastic.
She was just sort of
So Rhea Khanum herself was really
Yeah,
involved with that
absolutely.
process,
Yeah,
planting
she
that
said,
particular
Planting
tree.
that
I'm not
That's
done.
awesome.
I'm going to make sure
How
this thing
wonderful.
That
is done right, and it was done
So
right.
the dedication was not done until '89.
Hmm.
The school started in '88, but then she came in '89 in the springtime. I think I can't
see.
remember the exact day. But
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause it for a second. I want to
Absolutely.
make sure
Yeah, we can finish our tea.